Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr, and this is episode 282 of CryptoBiography, and I'm titling this one Moving Day. And of course, that does mean that I did not get enough written on The Smallest Magician to continue it. However, I did get back to writing on it, and unlike the previous week where I was just so busy I was unable to do anything, well, my optimism was sort of adorable. When I was thinking of like what I would be doing in the next week, I was assuming like once the dumpster was gone that the hard part would be over. That was not true. So we're going to talk about what happened this week. And this one felt a little weird too. This one felt weird in a different way from the piano, destroying the piano. And I think it's partly because like the piano was always, my wife's family's, and I never played it. So as much as I hated to destroy a musical instrument, there was always that sort of distance where I wasn't as close to it as if I had played it a lot myself or whatever. So, but the house is the house that I've lived in since 1999, and it is now up for sale. They've even had at least one person go through it. I don't know how many. I haven't gotten an update from the realtor person. But the rest of this week, so after the dumpster had gone and, the piano, but it was completely full. It was a 20-yard dumpster, and we completely filled it. We were actually asked for a 30, but they didn't have ones that day, so they gave us a 20. Even though it was, it's really weird. You can actually, reserve a 30, and then the day comes and they say, well, we don't have a 30, we're giving you a 20. Okay, well, that's what happened. So I ended up with a 20, and we completely filled it. But the good news is, we had some help, and we got a lot of stuff out of there. So, but then what happened was, once that happened, then we really needed to sort of get everything out. Like, the rest of the stuff had to come out of the house. We put a bunch of stuff on consignment, brought a bunch of stuff to the rental, and then the last few days, up until Friday, we hired some cleaners. We hired a carpet cleaner. Carpet cleaner, he did his best, but it's it's the original carpet, and we've had pets and a kid, and the messes that even adults sometimes make. And so, there are stains. It's not it doesn't look perfect by any means, but, it looks pretty good. And the rest of the house really looks good. Everything above the carpet actually looks really gorgeous, because we also hired my friend, who is a handyman, and we went through and we redid some of the railings. We did the railings on the front porch and painted them. We did a bunch of touch-up painting all around everywhere, like practically everywhere around the house. Got touch-up painted. My friend caulked a bunch of things, because the windows and stuff like that. Over 20 years, especially since it was the first 20 years, and there was the initial settling period in the first few years. That little cracks had built up, and I didn't know how to fix them, or they were kind of out of reach or whatever. So he had his ladder, and we got those all caulked up and repainted. And the house looks amazing. And there's a part of the rush was there was a person coming in to, they call it staging the place. And that's sort of an interesting term, because, yeah, it is being staged. Like, they bring in not a lot of furniture necessarily, but some decorations mostly, just to put on various places, make things look a little more lived in, or kind of give ideas of, here you might put, here you might put some painting or whatever. But the staging was sort of an interesting phrase for me, because it felt a lot like something I haven't felt since college, which was that rush that happens right before a play goes on. So when you do a play, there's usually first there's tryouts, and then, well, assuming you're acting. I did mostly acting because I was just doing it for fun. I wasn't in the acting program or anything, or the theater program, so I wasn't ever doing any tech except, a little bit just to help out. everyone sort of pitches in. That's just sort of how it is. But I wasn't seriously doing any of the tech work, and certainly none of the lighting and stuff like that. But so I was always acting. But so when it comes to a play, and it felt along the same lines, like you start off a little slow, like you try out. If you get the part, then yes, you start rehearsing your lines. You meet with people. You try to figure out what you're going to do. You're going to figure out how you stage it. But it's really only one of those things that, because it's a few weeks out or even a couple of months out, depending on how much lead time you're given. The first phase is a little slow. You're reading it and rereading it occasionally. But can certainly do other things with your time as well and not feel guilty. And then things sort of like speed up, and you get, you take care of, you figure out what your costume is going to be. You figure out if you're going to wear any specialized makeup, or if you need to do anything with your hair or wear a wig. Props, or you come into it, all that sort of thing. And it gets more and more, and then right towards the end is like this crunch time where like everyone has to know their lines by then, and hopefully they do. But then, you're like really figuring out exactly how all the timing works, how the lighting works, how everything works, and you do more and more because you're pretty soon you're meeting every night or every other night, and you are you're just, and it gets down to this crunch time until like the few nights before, when you're doing like the actual the tech rehearsals and the dress rehearsals. And so the tech rehearsal is sort of like when you may not be in costume, but you're basically doing the play as though you were doing the play, and then the tech people are trying to make sure that they're doing the lights the way that they want all the lights to be done, and any sound effects and stuff like that, stage changes that happen between bits. So it's pretty much the actual play, except you might not be in makeup and or costume, and but everything else is pretty much normal. And then the dress rehearsal is when you do everything like the way it's going to be live. Like you put on, usually you'll put on makeup too, but you'll definitely put on costume. Everything else is absolutely the way it will be when it's when you're trying it out, when you're actually, and then it's live. And that's very much how it felt with the house. Like, over the last few months, we've been slowly doing this and that, moving a few things, donating a few things to charity, throwing a few extra things away, figuring out what we need to do and when we need to do it. And then it's like, we sort of went through these phases, and then the last few weeks has been crunch time, and it has been crazy. It's been every day over there, especially the days when we hired my handyman friend. He and I were over there, like, we ended up over the course of less than 3 days hiring him for like 14 hours. So he did a ton of stuff. We did a ton of stuff, and I even did some stuff when he wasn't there. Long days, desperately trying to get everything done before, in the right order, before, like we had to get everything off the floor before the rug cleaner could come, and then there was only a short amount of time before the set dresser, or the dresser came, to stage the house. So we had to have everything off of even not just the floors, but off of the counters as well. And because of the cleaners, we also needed everything out of the drawers, so they could like clean the drawers and check everything and everything like that. It was crazy. And it really did feel like a marathon. And also, like I said, it brought back this feeling like I was doing theater again, which I haven't felt in a long time. And it was a little wistful for me. Like, it's like, oh yeah, this was actually, it wasn't so much fun for this, but I remember that sort of crunch time feeling, and it was sort of a fun feeling because, like, that like you and everyone else who's working on the play are all sort of in it together, and we're working really hard to make the best play we can, the funniest. I was usually in comedy, so we were trying to make it as funny as we could. And it was a great feeling. It really was. And there was some of that here, because like it definitely felt like a bonding moment with, well, first of all, my friend that we hired, because we're both adults now. We've known each other since high school and even junior high, but we, as adults, even though we live in the same city, we haven't made enough time to really see each other that much. So it felt really good to really kind of reconnect with them, because we were talking a lot and listening to music together, and of course working on the house. But even with my wife, who came, and I was doing all kinds of help as well. Like she was, we were doing the painting and some of the other things that sort of Will was good at and needed ladders and blah, blah, blah. But she was, doing all kinds of other things as well. And even though we weren't necessarily, working, side by side all the time, it felt very, it felt like a teammate, like a team sort of thing, it was a real bonding sort of thing, which was good for me, and made me feel really good that way. Who knows? Hopefully the house sells. There's no way to know with these sorts of things. The house is in pretty darn good shape. The roof is in good shape, despite the fact that it's been there for 23 years. It doesn't need a re-roofing for at least a few more years. We assume that the carpet will just go for whoever buys it will just haggle us down so that they can redo the carpet and probably do other kind of flooring. But if we have to do the flooring, I guess we'll figure out a way to do that. It's expensive to do that, but if that turns out to be we have to do it in order to make the house more saleable, then I guess we do it. But hopefully it won't come to that. The paint is now in good shape. It looks really, really good. For the most part, the various parts of the house, the heater is relatively new. The air conditioner was put in only 4 or 5 years ago. The refrigerator is only about 3 years old. The dishwasher is pretty, it's in good shape, but it's about 7, 8 years old now, but it's in good shape. And it was also a high quality one. Same with the stove. That was about 7 or 8 years ago it was put in, but it's a really nice one. So there's a lot to be said for the house. It's in a good neighborhood with, it's in walking distance to the local elementary school. There's also a park behind it. So there's a lot to be said for it. And of course, the interest rates have gone up, and because of that, the amount of interest in buying houses has gone down somewhat. But on the other hand, there's not a ton of houses available either. So it's not like it's not like everyone's trying to dive out of their houses. So, and especially this neighborhood is really nice because it has an HOA, which I'm not a huge fan of, but on the other hand, they do sort of keep things in line. You're not really supposed to rent out the house or Airbnb out the house. I understand some people have cheated and probably done it, but basically, for the most part, it's actually a neighborhood where people do, in fact, own, and this is their primary house that they actually live in. That that it's not empty half the year. It's not being rented out. It's not being Airbnb'd out or anything like that. And it's so let's hope. So anyway, yeah. Now it feels like I've really moved out. Because of that, this next coming week, I'll actually make the actual changes to my the postal service and. Well, I can't turn off the electricity or the gas or anything like that as long as as long as we're trying to show it. But some of the other things the cable, the internet has to go and stuff like that. It probably should have gone already. It was just the last 2 weeks were so busy that I took out the modem certainly, but I just haven't had time to go over there and turn off the account. We're going to probably do that this week. So anyway, yeah, it's a bit of a wistful time, sort of oddly reminiscent, like I say, of being in a play and having that crunch time leading up to a deadline and sort of coming together as a team. It felt pretty good. Anyway, I hope this episode has been of some interest to you. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, and thanks for listening. Words and Music copyright 2022, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.